So that that those cover the green economy reconstruction program, right? That first part of the eco-socialist Green New Deal. Um, and that, that's kind of like climate oriented, right? That's the climate half of the plan. The other half of the plan is the social aspect, right? Inequality kills. Beyond our climate program, the other pillar is this economic bill of rights. It seeks to address, and yet another crisis facing our society, which is spiraling inequality. For birth to death, the Economic Bill of Rights seeks to make sure that everyone has access to a job and an income above poverty, affordable and quality housing, comprehensive health care, lifelong access to free publication, free education, and a secure retirement. So that means a job guarantee, right? A federal job guarantee. If you don't have a living wage job, the federal government will help you get one, whether it be through the CCC, whether it be plugging you into new manufacturing, publicly owned manufacturing opportunities, whether it be getting you a job in the new publicly owned transportation system or in the new production system. The federal government would guarantee that everyone could have that living wage job. A guaranteed income above poverty. Not everyone can work. Not everyone can work full time. There's a lot of unique circumstances that apply to different individuals, and so we need an income above poverty that goes beyond just a living wage job. UBI, Universal Basic Income, is the really popular kind of buzzword way of talking about this. But in our plan, we actually call for the use of what's called the negative income tax. Basically, with the negative income tax, everybody files taxes, and if you make below a certain threshold, in our plan we call for below double the poverty line, then you get monthly checks to raise you up to that threshold. So whether you're working or not, no matter the regardless of the many circumstances that could cause that, everyone's guaranteed that income above poverty. It's a much more efficient system than UBI. It's a system that helps the people at the bottom. In UBI, we're going to give Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos the same checks unless we means test it, which if we're talking about UBI, we should be. But also, my big concern about UBI is that it will never raise. It will never, at least under present capitalism, it'll never be allowed to rise to the point of a guaranteed income above poverty, right? It might get you through a little bit, it might buffer you a little bit, but you're still going to need outside income if you're going to be above poverty and living comfortably. The Economic Bill of Rights guarantees affordable housing. We talked a lot about that with our public housing program, right? 25 million new units of social mixed income social housing, as well as universal rent control federally, to make sure that everyone not only has a home but has a quality home, has a home that's accessible to the things they need, that meets all of their needs, and not just as a space for them to be, but as part of their life in a community. We need comprehensive health care. We talked about this a little earlier, but not only do we need to abolish the insurance industry, we need to socialize the entire sector, right? If something's a human right, no one should be profiting off of it. And insurance industry is not the only bad actor in the medical sector, right? Providers and the big pharma and medical manufacturers and a whole litany of kind of tangential industries and sectors profit off of our healthcare. And like I said, if healthcare is a human right, it shouldn't be operated for profit. It should be operated at cost. It should be subsidized and publicly owned and controlled. A lifelong free education. This includes from pre-K and daycare through your high school and your secondary education, all the way up into your higher education. We need to eliminate student debt, right? And that's a big kind of a flashpoint right now in national politics. But even the half measure that the Democrats took, right, is being challenged in the courts. It may not survive, um, but it doesn't actually address the problem long term, right? We need to strike that debt. We need to eliminate that debt, but we also need to make sure that no one else is incurring the debt. If we were to strike the entire almost $2 trillion in in student loan debt today, that would be great. But we would start building towards another 2 trillion tomorrow, as people who are still forced to take on loans to get their education. So we need to make sure that there's free, lifelong public education from birth to death, from pre-K to higher ed. And then finally, with the Economic Bill of Rights, we need to make sure that there's a secure retirement for all. In our 2020 Eco-Socialist Green New Deal plan, that was achieved by a initial immediate doubling of the Social Security payments. Um, but we need to make sure that we have um, that safety net in place. We need to make sure that safety net is well funded. We need to undo the wrongs and the theft that has happened from it in the past. We need to make the payments into it progressive and not regressive, which is what they are now. Um, so that's the Economic Bill of Rights, and it really deals with the social side, right? And this is the first one that goes over that annual budget of the military if we cut at 1.42 trillion over 10 years. But when you look at what we get out of it, right? We get millions of jobs. We get a guaranteed income above poverty. We get a guaranteed, access to affordable housing. We get not only Medicare for all, but a socialized healthcare system, right? We get we get education, so we're not paying for public education anymore out of our pockets, at the point of sale. It's all part of a public program that we pay for through our taxes and through other funding methods, and we get a secure retirement. So we're getting a whole lot, for that 1.42 trillion, and once you split it up over 10 years, it's even more affordable. So this is where we really come in and deal with the social problems, right? We've got economic problems, we've got power production problems, we've got transportation problems, but those are all kind of sterile sector-based problems. The Economic Bill of Rights deals with people. It makes sure that as we transition our economy, we are ensuring that the people are taken care of first and foremost, and that the people have democratic control. There's a it's popular saying that you can't have political democracy without economic democracy, right? So until we get this kind of economic democracy and enshrined and protected and established, we really shouldn't be talking about our political democracy, which I think most people, at least watching something like this, probably have a good understanding that we don't have a democracy and we were never intended by our founders to have one. We live in a state that was built for capitalism, that was built for and by oligarchs, and so we need an Economic Bill of Rights to move us in a new direction. I just info dumped a whole bunch really fast. It's kind of the reality of trying to talk about this massive policy proposal that is the Green Party's vision of the Green New Deal. One thing we could do for future workshops is, kind of break these sectors down and spend more time on each one. But for today, we just kind of wanted to give an overview. Garrett, do you have anything to add after my high-speed dump of information? I don't know if Garrett's there.